Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by my friends at Invest Yrefy. Invest in America like I do, and by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat, you see, has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. Speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Epoch Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and Birch Gold. And make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are currently using, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. And be sure to patronize our sponsors. And if you don't patronize our sponsors, well...
somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I won't.
We know where you live. Did you know 1/3 of Democrats believe the assassination attempt was staged? Was the head of the Secret Service a DEI hire? The Trump fest at the RNC, and Biden is dead man walking, but Obama and the Dems are stuck with Kamala. All of this and more.
Is there any doubt who's going to be the next president of the United States? Prayer works. This nation based on faith, prayer works. Because he was sure, as Donald Trump turned his head just slightly, that the bullet missed him just enough to save his life to be the next president of the United States. And abroad, there would be no wars.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
More on this extraordinary Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, where I was a California delegate, in a moment. The Democrats don't know what to do. Their leaders, Obama, Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, want Biden out, but they also want Kamala out. But they know darn well Democrat female voters, the most loyal part of the Democratic base, will march on Washington if Kamala is stepped over in favor of someone else, especially some white dude like Mayor Pete or Gavin Newsom. So they are stuck. If not Biden, it's going to be Kamala. Biden has even lost Joe Scarborough.
When you're told by members of Congress that they're losing, they're going to lose the House and the Senate if he stays on the ticket, when you're told by members of Congress who have seen the polls that you're losing swing states and that your numbers are going down in swing states, and states like Virginia, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Minnesota are now in play. And when your top fundraiser over the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years is telling you the money's gone, the donors have all gone away, you know, it's really incumbent on people that are around Joe Biden to step up at this point and help the president and help the man they love and do the right thing. We've talked ad nauseum about Joe Biden turning in the worst presidential performance ever in the history of televised debates. We had the Lester Holt interview. Everybody calling me, oh, well, that's the end. Did you see? He mumbled like Chewbacca at the end. He says, that's the end. It's all over. We're not going to like Chewbacca. It's done. It's done. We had the press conference. Oh, he said President Putin instead of President Zelensky. Oh, he said Vice President Trump. It's over. It's done. Joe Biden, I got bad news for them and for Joe Biden. Joe Biden wasn't good at talking in 1987.
He has a stutter. He has a stutter. He has a stutter. That's not helpful.
Do the right thing.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with Yrefy, and they don't care about what happens with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrefy.com. That's investyrefy.com. Yrefy, do well by doing good. Did you know actor Jack Black has a band? After the Trump assassination, one of his band members actually said this.
Happy birthday, Sheriff. Make a wish, Canada. Don't miss Trump next time.
What's worse, what the band member said or the crowd's reaction?
I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burnt to the ground.
Now, after the assassination attempt, a staffer for Representative Benny Thompson, Democrat from Mississippi, posted this on Facebook. I don't condone violence, but please get you some shooting lessons so you don't miss next time. Oops, that wasn't me talking. End of quote.
We saw lots of comments on social media after the assassination attempt on President Trump. One of those comments was from a now former staffer of Congressman Benny Thompson, and her post cost her her job.
Thompson fired the staffer, but consider Thompson's own record of vitriol. He called Supreme Court Associate Justice Clarence Thomas an Uncle Tom. He introduced a bill to strip Secret Service protection from Trump after Trump's criminal conviction. He served as chair of the January 6th committee that investigate Trump's alleged election denying and the so-called attempt to overturn the election via an insurrection. Yet Thompson, after the 2004 re-election of President George W. Bush, joined some 30 other House members and California Democrat Senator Barbara Boxer in an effort to reject the certification of Ohio. They claim the voting machines have been tampered with by its pro-Republican manufacturer, the Diebold Company. The media never accused Thompson and the Democrats of election denying and of trying to overturn an election. Can you say double standard? Now, speaking of insanity, according to a new poll, a third of Democrats believe the assassination attempt was staged. I kid you not. What? The head of the Secret Service accepts responsibility but refuses to step down?
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
The president and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the Secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
You plan to stay on? Absolutely.
I do plan to stay on.
Reminder, this is a woman who once said her goal was to hire more women.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly when
I am woman, hear me roar. This is Bill Maher after the attempted assassination.
Well, unequivocally denounced. I don't care what you think about that. Not funny. I'm sure there will be jokes that people will make because they hate him so much about they wish it went the other way. Not for me. Not for me. Not funny in any dimension. And whoever did this, whoever was the shooter, has done so much damage to the left, lost a lot of moral high ground, and you're the violent people. You know, liberals don't shoot people. Liberals don't solve it that way. This has got to stop because none of this violence happens in a vacuum. It's never in a vacuum. But I'm glad he's okay, Trump. I gotta say this, the luckiest mother that has ever walked the face of the earth.
Now, after the assassination attempt, Biden said we should turn down the temperature.
About the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. To lower the temperature in our politics.
I have a suggestion. How about saying it starts with me, and it starts with the First Lady?
He disparages those who sacrifice for our country. His own chief of staff said he called POWs and those who died in war losers and suckers. He's evil. He said he didn't want to be seen with injured veterans because it didn't look good for him. It's disgraceful.
Say that one more time.
He's evil.
For 9 years and counting, Trump haters have called for violence against Mr. Trump.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
This way. That's it right there. This way. That's it right there. This way. That's it right.
Hey, Kathy Griffin, you almost got your wish. If you weren't following the news, a massive hit to the U.S. dollar came in June when Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the U.S. You see, since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil solely in U.S. dollars. And that was huge to our global economic dominance. Now they want options other than the U.S. dollar. So I ask you, if there is less demand for the dollar, what happens to the dollar? Look, it's reasons like this that Americans turn to Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA into physical gold. To learn more, visit LarryForGold.com and claim your free, no-obligation info kit on gold. Again, visit LarryForGold.com. Birch Gold has earned my trust with their education-first approach, their thousands of happy customers, and their countless 5-star reviews. Protect your savings with gold before the dollar plunges any further. Visit LarryForGold.com today. That's LarryForGold.com today. Ah, the old bloodbath lie. At least as far as ABC is concerned, it refuses to die.
And of course, in March, he said, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. He said he was partly joking and that was taken out of context. But those are indeed his words.
You know, Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal. those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world. I mean, honestly, I joke about it. He can't walk across the street. In that way, he's like Biden.
ABC News' George Clintonopoulos, after the assassination attempt, suggests Trump is to blame for violent rhetoric.
But as you point out, those statements from J.D. Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy, of course, President Trump and his supporters have contributed to this violent rhetoric as well.
Well, absolutely, George. Absolutely, George. Absolutely, George.
Now, this assassination attempt could have been avoided.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, you see him? He's laying down. You see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
Instead, I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look. There he is.
Easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof, big guy.
Up here.
Well, this hasn't worn well.
Just sit back on the sidelines and say, oh, well, don't worry, this will all work itself out. They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump. Put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Any apology, Mr. Wilson, after the assassination attempt? Are you kidding?
MAGA commentators and social media types and scamfluencers are attacking me saying, oh, well, you once said the donors have to put a bullet in Trump.
Put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Folks, metaphor and rhetoric are different. Folks, don't hide from a confrontation about Trump. Don't walk away from the fight. He is not a martyr. He is not a saint. He is not a good man. He is not a great man. I am glad he lived. I am thankful to God that he lived. I am very, very, very grateful that Providence spared his life.
Put a bullet in Donald Trump.
I am beyond grateful. I think it would have broken this country in a fundamental way.
Did the New York Times, in what has become an iconic photo of Trump right after the assassination attempt, crop out the American flag? You be the judge. Now, some, after the assassination attempt, couldn't keep their glee on the down low.
John Wilkes Booth, if you can hear us, if you are with us, please, please, John Wilkes Booth, if you're listening, please.
Let me get this straight. You have a fully reloaded shotgun, but you chose to use a one bullet.
We're not even sending our best to assassinate. Because what the hell was that? Lee Harvey Oswald would never. John Wilkes Booth would never.
Today was like this close to being the best day ever.
Also, the person that at Trump at his rally was exercising that right that all of those Republicans were fighting for. So can you really blame him?
Before the assassination attempt, there was this Biden tweet.
You called your opponent an existential threat. On a call a week ago, you said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that
I didn't say
words
crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing.
In 1775, there was a shot heard round the world. In 2024, there was a shot that reelected Trump. Meanwhile, over at CNN, they're attacking Trump for saying fight fight, fight right after somebody tried to murder him. Complained about putting his fist in the air.
I do want to say there was one thing that when I watched the tape, I found odd because of all of the heated rhetoric. And that is that after he was hit, former President Trump got up and said, fight, fight, fight. I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message that we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down.
What message do we want sent right now? Even Mark Zuckerberg, who spent over $400 million of his own money to make sure Trump did not win in 2020, even he called Trump's reaction after the assassination attempt badass.
Now, look, I mean, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. I mean, the historic events over the last, like over the weekend. And I mean, on a personal note, it's, you know, I mean, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But look, I mean, it's, you know, and I think, look, it's, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit and that fight. And I think that that's why a lot of people like the guy.
In my mind, the choice is clear. But this election, we all get to choose. I know I'm going to choose strength and security. I know I'm going to choose opportunity and prosperity. I know I'm going to choose real American leadership and a real American badass.
As for President Biden's first public comment after the attempted assassination.
Mr. President, do you think this was an assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to. I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So
you don't know enough to call this an assassination attempt? What does it take?
I'm waiting.
Let me ask you a question. How many of you are concerned about the invasion of privacy that is currently going on by the Biden administration? Biden's DOJ is invading individuals' private messages and targeting them based on their political affiliation, and that's why I partnered with Freedom Chat, a private social messaging app that, like me, believes privacy is your fundamental human right. Freedom Chat has variable end-to-end encryption, built-in screenshot protection, no storage of messages on their servers, and no commercial use of user data. I'm such a fan of Freedom Chat, in fact, that I have created my own private channel that you can subscribe to for exclusive content, including never-seen images, videos, and posts. Simply download the app, or if you're on Android, join their waitlist. Search for my channel and subscribe. No one can see the channels that you are subscribed to or the posts that you react to. It's your own perfectly curated private news feed. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. Download the app today and subscribe to my channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. Apparently, some progressives didn't get Biden's lower your temperature memo.
About the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that, to lower the temperature in our politics.
Now, you remember the egg attack against me when I was running for governor, as well as the pellets that were shot at my campaign? One pellet went through a folder held by one of my security guys. The pellet could have gone into his eye, and one pellet struck one of my security guys in the back. Some on the left actually laughed at the egg attack. The then L.A. County Sheriff, a Democrat, but not a stupid one, called it a crime and said the LAPD should take it seriously. In fact, he called it a hate crime. They didn't, and the attacker was never arrested.
Meanwhile, you know, out in California, one of the reasons there's a recall is because people were so incensed with how Governor Gavin Newsom, he locked down everything. Larry Elder currently is the leading contender to take his job, although the polls do show, if you believe the polls, show that Newsom is slightly ahead. Yesterday, Larry Elder took his so-called recall express to Venice Beach, and what happened there was so astounding, we had to show you. So keep in mind, he's there, and there is a woman in a gorilla mask throwing an egg at him. She punched a guy who told her to stop. She yelled, "Take your hands off me, you..." Expletive. "Touch me again, touch me again." She then aimed a left hook at the man. Security guard then menaced another guy wearing all black before a second woman was slapped. By the way, the woman right there who slugged that guy with the left hook, she's on a smart bike. So while he was at a homeless encampment, obviously she was not from the homeless encampment because she's on a smart bike and she made a getaway.
Yeah,
What's with the
Gavin
gorilla
Newsom,
mask?
That's what Candace Owens was asking. Why is she wearing a black-faced gorilla mask and throwing eggs at Larry Elder? If you haven't seen the video, let's start with this. This is what happened to Larry Elder when he's just out there trying to campaign at the homeless encampment.
We're getting egged from behind.
You take your hands off me. Touch me again.
Don't touch me. Don't touch
me again.
Touch him.
On me again. I'll you on.
Fucking grab her. Don't grab her.
For me, boy. Second division, 53. Get that sorry piece of shit out of here. Hey, Michael. Anything you want to say? Yeah. There you go.
And we didn't tell people about the pellet attack until later, although I mentioned it in my book, As Goes California. You see, the fear was that there would be copycats. Now, back to the assassination attempt against Trump. ABC's Martha Raddatz.
President Trump and his supporters have contributed to this violent rhetoric as well.
Well, absolutely, George. We were just looking back this morning at some of the things that former President Trump has said. He warned last March of potential death and destruction if he were charged by the Manhattan District Attorney. Our country is being destroyed as they tell us to be peaceful. Trump in January warned of bedlam in the country if the criminal charges against him succeeded. And, of course, in March, he said, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. He said he was partly joking and that was taken out of context. But those are indeed his words. And you have heard it from supporters as well. And supporters are certainly in some parts angry. And let's remember January 6th. In so many ways for the campaign, January 6th will probably be in the background after yesterday's event. This is a very difficult time for this campaign.
Incendiary rhetoric. Biden meet Joe Biden.
This MAGA threat is a threat to the brick and mortar of our democratic institutions. But it's also a threat to the character of our nation. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
And Biden is still lying.
Look, there's so much violence now, the way we talk about it. I mean, the whole notion that there is this, there's no place at all for violence in politics in America. None. Zero. And we've reached a point where it's become too commonplace, not assassinations, but to talk about it. For example, you know, the January 6th, you know, the attack on the Capitol. Lester, I got in this race early on in 2020 for the 2020 race. I wasn't going to run again because I lost my son. I didn't feel, and until I watched what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. Those folks coming out of the woods with torches, carrying swastikas, singing the same Nazi bile. It accompanied by this Ku Klux Klan, and a young woman was killed. And it was a bystander. And the president, then president, was asked, what do you think? He said, they're very fine people on both sides. They're fine people on both sides. No excuse, zero.
No pushback by Mr. Holt, no correction, still lying, and therefore, by not correcting him, the media are lying by omission.
Well, I don't think, look, how do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I have not engaged in that rhetoric. Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about there'll be a bloodbath if he loses, talking about how he's going to forgive all the, actually.
The old dictator lie.
There's a whole range of things that, look, I'm not the guy that said, I want to be a dictator on day one.
And Biden claims he was involved in the civil rights movement.
It's about why he got involved in the first place. Look, I got out of school, high school, and my state was segregated by law to its great shame in Delaware. And I got involved in the civil rights movement. No great shakes, just sit-ins, you know, and things like that.
And once again, the interviewer says nothing.
Eye-opening lead in a New York Times profile of Joe Biden's 1988 presidential campaign, the first time he ran for president. He lied to voters, according to the New York Times, quoting aides of Biden's, about having marched in the civil rights movement. And the New York Times reports, quote, more than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with this formulation. He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement, and more than once, Mr. Biden assured them that he understood and kept telling the story anyway. That is really, really weird.
Consider the lies during the BET interview.
Tonight, a BET News exclusive. Black America Votes, the Biden interview.
Amid growing political divisions and a failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and with questions continuing to swirl around the strength of his candidacy, I sat down with President Joe Biden to specifically discuss the issues and concerns of black voters.
I'd like you to take a moment and tell Black America, why should they turn out for you?
Look, I'm only 3 years older than Trump, okay? And I think I'm in a little better physical shape than he is. That's all. It takes time for it to happen. And so it's just taking time for people to see it. And the other thing is, there's not been a very good job done about saying this new $1 billion bridge going over there is brought to you by Joe Biden.
That you didn't build that.
This $1 billion tunnel that's going to increase and reduce blah, blah, blah.
Somebody else made that happen.
So we're working on that, and I think, but I think it's just time. Last administration had us in a recession when they left. Last administration, black unemployment was down. Last administration, black unemployment was down. Last administration, black unemployment was down. The last administration, because of the failure to deal with COVID in an honest way, 1 million people died. Last administration, we had the largest deficit of anyone in history. Look at the heat I'm getting, because I named the Secretary of Defense, a black man. I named Ketanji Brown. I mean, because of the people I've named. It's about making it clear that American history is black history. Black history is American history, and it's being built by it. That's why we're strong. You know, there's only 2 presidents in American history who've come to office and left with fewer jobs than they came to office. And the other was a guy we all know very well. I call, anyway, Trump is one of them. So we don't need more cops. What we need is more social workers. That's why I appointed Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's, by the way, the brightest in the court, I think. I mean, in terms of pure gray matter. I got a lot of heat because you have our friends in the Republican Party trying to erase black history. Look, everybody said, I said we got to tone down the rhetoric about violence. There's no room for violence. You can't be talking about violence. You can't be saying that if I lose the election, there'll be a bloodbath, which he said. One of the things that occurred when I won, you may remember, I said I was running for 3 reasons. It was after my son was killed or died because of Iraq. I didn't want to get involved. And then I was watching television, And I was a professor at Penn, watching television later. And you saw those folks come out of the fields in Charlottesville carrying torches, accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan, carrying Nazi swastikas. And a young woman a bystander was killed. And he was asked, well, tell me about what happened here, Mr. President. There were good people on both sides. That's when I decided I had to run. That's why I ran. And by the way, if you notice, whether it's young blacks or young whites or white Hispanics or young Asian Americans.
Did he say wet Hispanics?
White Hispanics. I got out of school, high school, and my state was segregated by law to its great shame in Delaware. And I got involved in the civil rights movement. No great shakes, just sit-ins, and things like that. Remember when you were a kid and they were desegregating Mayfield, the neighborhood we live, the neighboring neighborhood called Linfield? You were 14 or 15 years old. I told you not to go down there because there were people protesting, but you went down and you got arrested for being on the porch with a black family. The first black man in history has a chance to be president. You told him no. That's how it's always been with me in the black community. I would ordinarily be going through black neighborhoods on the foot, working through the neighborhoods. I have a tradition. I close every campaign, no matter what campaign, going into the projects and going down the east side. And, hey, Joe, well, how you doing? Everybody, well, just because they're my friends, let them know I'm still there. We can't do that now. Not because of the black community, because it's too dangerous for me to be out walking on a company. The black community, in the east side where I'm from, was. And by the way you get equity, you build equity by home ownership. That's how all middle-class white guys did.
Mr. President, always good to speak with you.
Hope to have me back. I really mean it.
Did he say white people build equity? Americans have had enough of supporting companies that hate our values. Tired of compromise? So am I. It's time to switch to Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They are an example of putting the cause ahead of profits, and that's why I'm proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you access to all 3 major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding the left. When you switch over to Patriot Mobile, you're sending a message that you support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, and our military vets and our first responder heroes. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes it easy to switch, keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their team will help you find the best plan for your needs. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. That's patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation when you use the offer code Larry. Join me and make that switch today. patriotmobile.com/Larry, patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. Still more lying?
What is that change going to look like, Don? What practically, your father as president, I think you would even say, was a divisive figure. What's it going to look like in the second term?
I don't think he was a divisive figure at all. I think the media created divisiveness around him. They lied about Russia collusion. They said he was a traitor. They went after him in every which way as possible. If the media actually starts being an honest broker, talking about the things that he did, the prosperity he brought, the peace deals that he signed around the world, rather than the disaster that we're living right now, I think you'd do everyone in the country a big favor.
I know immigration's important to him. I covered the family separation crisis closely. Will we continue to see policies like separating 5,000 children deliberately from their parents?
You mean the Obama administration?
You know they didn't do that, sir.
Okay, sure.
Will there be a second family separation policy?
It's MSDNC, so I expect nothing less from you clowns. Even today, even 48 hours later, you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait with your lies and with your nonsense. So just get out of here.
Let's go. Just so you understand, President Obama separated the children. Those cages that were shown, I think they were very inappropriate. They were built by President Obama's administration, not by Trump. President Obama had child separation. Take a look. The press knows it. You know it. We all know it. I'm the one that stopped it. President Obama had child separation. Now, I'll tell you something. Once you don't have it, that's why you see many more people coming. They're coming like it's a picnic, because let's go to Disneyland. President Obama separated children. They had child separation. I was the one that changed it. Okay, thank you very much.
Was there child separation under Obama?
Verify team is working to answer your questions about the immigration controversy along the border. Someone asked if the Obama administration also separated undocumented families.
Stephanie Whitfield is here with what she found out.
This is the question a viewer sent us. She asked, please verify that just as many families were separated during the Obama presidency as the Trump presidency. To answer this question, I went to two sources, two immigration experts right here in Houston. Gordon Kwan, a prominent immigration lawyer, says many of the kids detained during the Obama presidency arrived at the border alone.
What we're looking at now are families that are coming together.
Of course, families illegally crossing the border isn't new, but how they're handled is, according to University of Houston professor Jeffrey Hoffman.
There were family detention centers set up in Carnes, for example, in Dilley, and that's certainly true. But there was nowhere near the amount of family separation that exists now under the current administration. And the real reason for this is the zero tolerance.
Instead of catch and release or detaining families together, zero tolerance means all adults are sent for prosecution. Since kids can't stay in adult jails, they're separated now.
We did not have tent cities. We did not have facilities that hold hundreds of minor children. It was never enforced in that way, either under Obama or under George W. Bush.
Border Patrol does have statistics readily available about how many families and unaccompanied minors are detained. Information about family separations is harder to find, and Border Patrol officials didn't provide those numbers when I asked today. Since statistics aren't available, we have to go with what experts who deal with this are telling us. And they say claims that just as many families were separated during the Obama presidency are false.
Now, notice this newscast started out by asking whether Obama separated families. Then they cut to another reporter who reframed the question and said, did they separate as many families as did Trump?
Someone asked if the Obama administration also separated undocumented families.
Please verify that just as many families were separated during the Obama presidency as the Trump presidency.
No, the issue is whether families were separated under Obama. Not how many, not whether or not it was done by policy. Was it, in fact, true that families were separated under Obama?
Claims that just as many families were separated during the Obama presidency are false.
Sigh. As you saw, the fact check went on to say it's happening in way bigger numbers under Trump. But again, the question is, did it happen under Obama? The answer is yes, it did, which is exactly what Trump said and which the MSNBC reporter denied when Trump Jr. said it. Here's what Vox said, quote, it's not that no family was ever separated at the border under the Obama administration. We don't know how often that happened, but we know it was not a widespread or standard practice, end of quote. In other words, it did happen.
Oh, that's very different. Never mind.
I repeat, it did happen under Obama, says Vox. We just don't know how often.
You know they didn't do that, sir.
As I said, I was at the RNC in Milwaukee as a California delegate. These are some of my favorite moments. And apparently, Trump is not the only one concerned about the two-tiered judicial system.
My son, Sergeant Hassan Korea, an Afghanistan War retired veteran. He received enemy fire from the Taliban, only to be murdered with a knife on the streets of New York City. The 4 assailants responsible for his death initially were facing justice, but that changed when District Attorney Alvin Bragg was elected. Suddenly, 2 of the homicidal maniacs responsible for my son's death had their gang assault and murder charges completely dismissed. I don't want anyone else to experience the senseless pain that many other victims across this United States of America have to live with every day. So I decided to use the voice that God gave me to be the voice for the voiceless across America. We need justice for victims, and we need accountability for prosecutors who fail in their duty. Soft on crime prosecutors like Alvin Bragg in New York, Kim Foxx in Chicago, and George Gascon in Los Angeles have turned our great country and cities into war zones.
Unattended luggage.
Behind me is the San Diego border wall, what was once regarded as the best example of secure bordering in the United States. Now, this border wall section, it's now facing the same type of border crisis right here as the rest of the country.
We have open gaps here in San Diego, but they're just coming in.
According to statistics from Customs and Border Protection, around 7.2 million illegal immigrants entered the United States under President Joe Biden alone. What is actually causing this crisis?
Gotta love these World War II vets. If my dad were still alive, he'd be 109. This gentleman is a mere 98 years old.
And where I come from, when somebody comes for me or my home, you dig in your boots in the ground and never look back. That's the attitude that saved the free world, and those years ago. And President Trump, back in Commander-in-Chief, I would go back to re-enlist today.
VP nominee J.D. Vance's mom brought down the House.
Our movement is about single moms like mine who struggled with money and addiction but never gave up. And I'm proud to say that tonight my mom is here, 10 years clean and sober. I love you, Mom.
Bet Biden wouldn't challenge Trump's granddaughter to a round of golf.
I'm speaking today to share the side of my grandpa that people don't often see.
To me, he's just a normal grandpa. He gives us candy and soda when our parents aren't looking. He calls me during the middle of the school day to ask how my golf game is going and tells me all about his. But then I have to remind him that I'm in school and I'll have to call him back later. When we play golf together, if I'm not on his team, he'll try to get inside of my head. I know. And he's always surprised that I don't let him get to me. But I have to remind him, I'm a Trump too.
Then former President Donald J. Trump made a very subtle entrance.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit to Houston and New York to LA, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people, at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. Corey, unfortunately, we have to use the past tense. He was incredible. He was a highly respected former fire chief, respected by everybody. Was accompanied by his wife, Helen, incredible woman. I spoke to her today, devastated, and two precious daughters. He lost his life selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely, but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper. And then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually, most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that. I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but they just, this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And you can see that love written all over their faces. Bullets were flying over us, yet I felt serene. But now the Secret Service agents were putting themselves in peril. They were in very dangerous territory. Bullets were flying right over them, missing them by a very small amount of inches. And then it all stopped. Our Secret Service sniper, from a much greater distance and with only one bullet used, took the assassin's life, took him out. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you. But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. In watching the reports over the last few days, many people say it was a providential moment. Probably was. When I rose surrounded by Secret Service, the crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight."
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
And we must not criminalize dissent or demonize political disagreement, which is what's been happening in our country lately at a level that nobody has ever seen before. In that spirit, the Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. Especially since that is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country.
God bless America!
As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. I'm only going to use the term once. Biden. I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. We'll start paying off debt and start lowering taxes even further. We gave you the largest tax cut. We'll do it more. You know, people don't realize I brought taxes way down, way down, and yet we took in more revenues the following year than we did when the tax rate was much higher. Most people said, how did you do that? Because it was incentive. You have been told to lower your expectations and to accept less for your families. I am here tonight with the opposite message. Your expectations are not big enough. They're not big enough. It is time to start expecting and demanding the best leadership in the world, leadership that is bold, dynamic, relentless, and fearless. We can do that. We are Americans. Ambition is our heritage. Greatness is our birthright. But as long as our energies are spent fighting each other, our destiny will remain out of reach. And that's not acceptable. We must instead take that energy and use it to realize our country's true potential and write our own thrilling chapter of the American story. We can do it together. We will unite. We are going to come together, and success will bring us together. Just like our ancestors, we must now come together, rise above past differences. Any disagreements have to be put aside and go forward, united as one people, one nation, pledging allegiance to one great, beautiful, I think it's so beautiful, American flag. Tonight I ask for your partnership, for your support, and I am humbly asking for your vote. I want your vote. Going to make our country great again. Every day I will strive to honor the trust you have placed in me, and I will never, ever let you down. I promise that. I will never let you down. To all of the forgotten men and women who have been neglected, abandoned, and left behind, you will be forgotten no longer. We will press forward, and together we will win, win, win. Nothing will sway us, nothing will slow us, and no one will ever stop us. No matter what dangers come our way, no matter what obstacles lie in our path, we will keep striving toward our shared and glorious destiny, and we will not fail. We will not fail. Together, we will save this country, we will restore the republic, and we will usher in the rich and wonderful tomorrows that our people so truly deserve. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before.
A Real Clear Markets article said Bank of America needs to come clean about debanking practices. It wrote, and I'm quoting, "More victims of Bank of America's de-banking regime have come forward, including Timothy II Project International and constitutional scholar John Eastman, a friend of mine, both debanked under similar circumstances by the nation's second largest bank. The bank's lack of transparency about cancellations that suspiciously look like they are based on viewpoint is why shareholders sought a report assessing whether the bank's policies and practices pose a risk of politicized debanking. Old Glory Bank will never debank any law-abiding customer. Our mission is the Constitution. Open an account at oldglorybank.com, and when you get your debit card in the mail, activate it, and you'll get a copy of my latest book, As Goes California, at a 50% discount. oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. A few notes. Let's call this a mega matrix moment.
He is the one.
Many men, like all the men, wish death upon me. Blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see. The president is what I'm destined to be, but Democrats trying to take my life away. Put a hole in my ear, now you gon' see. Put a call into all my security. Better watch how you talk when you talk about me, cause I'll come and take your life away. Many men, that's a lot of men. Many, 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 many men, all the men wish death on me. Lord, I don't cry no more. Don't look to the sky no more. Have mercy on me.
我が心と行動に一点の曇りなし。すべてが正義だ。ドジャーンドジャーンドジャーン一体何のつもりなんだ。
Guess what I did?
So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America what it is to think about.
Hold up.
Make America great again.
To make America what it is to think about.
Well, I hope you enjoyed We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by my friends at InvestYrefy.com. Invest in America like I do. And by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. Speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also want to thank Epoch Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and Birch Gold. And make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are currently using, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. And remember, we've got a country to save.
We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city. America missed me.